Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome to today's lesson, which is a free preview lesson from our hands-on debugging course, which you can find on the course description. I hope you enjoy. Now, in the previous lesson, we looked at compilers and how they interpret errors. But I want to go ahead and throw you a little bit of a curveball here with our code and why we really need to learn about debugging and understand what's going on here. So I'm going to take this program here, and I promise that it's a valid program here. In fact, let me compile it and run it, and again, we get the same output. But I'm going to go ahead and just change one symbol in this program here. So if I go to line 8 and delete one of these equal symbols here. So I'll go ahead and save the program, and I'm going to go ahead and compile it, and it compiles just fine. Now let's go ahead and run this and see if the logic follows through. So if I go ahead and compile it, it's going to say x is 7. Well, wait a second here. If I really look at this program here, what was the programmer's intent? I've assigned x to 8 here, and then I go down to line 8 and I figure out, oh, x is 7. I'm saying it is. So this condition is always going to evaluate to true. So it's always going to print 7 here. Versus what we had before. So you sort of understand the problem here. Our compiler doesn't understand our intent as a programmer. And this is why we have to learn the skill of debugging, so that we can follow the actual logic of the program and say, hey, this is a little bit weird here. It's a classic instance of forgetting the double equals here to test for equality. So two things that we can do here. And this is where I want to show that the compiler still can help us. And the first thing that we can do is just go ahead and compile our program, but turn on warnings. And I'm going to revisit this later on, and you'll see me do different things with the compiler to help us. But one thing you can do is turn on warnings here. And in this case, if I go ahead and make this a little bit bigger here, you'll see that our compiler gives us a warning. It suggests that parentheses around this assignment here are used as a truth value. Now, that might be a little bit of a cryptic error here, but it's at least telling us, hey, take a closer look at line 8 here around character 8, this statement here. So sometimes our compilers can give us hints about common things like this, but they certainly can't give us these sort of errors for every possible situation. Now, the second thing I want to show you is just how to program a little bit defensively. So something that I often do that's a little bit of a trick here is just flip these symbols here and say 7 equals x here. And if I go ahead and clear this message, I'll try to recompile here. And let me make my window a little bit bigger for you. And let's see what happens here. I'll go ahead and hit enter, and this in fact gives us an error. Now again, it might be a little bit of a cryptic error here, but we can't assign 7 to some symbol. 7 is just 7. It always is. Mathematically, this is just how it works here. So that's one way that we can be a little bit defensive. So if I truly meant for equality, I can have her do 7 equals x here, and that'll compile just fine. Again, capturing my intent that I'm being a little bit defensive here because on the left-hand side, I can't have a actual integer value here. So anyway, that's just a little bit of a programming tip. But the takeaway from this lesson is that our compilers are very good at parsing valid programs, but they're not always very good at understanding our intent. Sometimes we can get hints, but not always. So in order to write better programs, we're going to have to learn how to debug so we can try to get this right as often as possible.